Thank you for joining us for our Facebook event. We are in conversation with Dr. Jonathan Dewald, who is our SUNY Distinguished Professor. So what drew you to UB?
Basically, nothing very elevated, strictly for personal reasons, really. I was in a long-distance relationship at the time, and this was a chance to live a normal life. My companion was in the neighborhood. And then in addition, my mother lived in Rochester, and she passed away only a few years ago. So it was a chance to kind of normalize my life. I had been teaching in Southern California, at the University of California, Irvine. And so, you know, there was nothing that exactly drew me to UB, but you know, the notion of a public research university, to me, that's very precious. And so that was very appealing. The city is enormously appealing to me. So, put it that I was pushed to UB, but it was certainly a nice place that, you know, that I found attractive and engaging.
So you've taught courses, you specialize in early modern Europe,
Yes.
both at UB and internationally in several institutions in France, along with courses around the country. What is your favorite course that you've taught so far?
You know, that's a really interesting question. I suppose you could say my current fave is a course on European intellectual history, starting in the 13th century with Thomas Aquinas, ending in the mid-20th century with Simone de Beauvoir. So, but I guess the larger, and you know, that's just a fun course. It's really interesting to see how ideas get preserved, reworked, recombined, criticized over a long haul. The larger context is, to me, you know, teaching is a space of freedom, and that every course, I think, you know, I will do this as I want to do it. That we're not here just to sort of plod through a textbook or something. So, so I don't teach courses if I don't think they're fun. And you know, I believe that you can make a lot of things. As you know, yes. I teach a world civilizations course. And that too, you know, I figure this is how I want to do it, and you know, we're bringing value via what we want to do. So to me, teaching, you know, has to be fun, basically. So favorite, not favorite, it's the distinction is not very wide.
So in addition to teaching, you are a prolific researcher.
Mm-hmm.
When I was preparing for this conversation, I was looking at your current CV,
yeah.
And you have so many publications,
mm-hmm.
both in terms of articles and books. How do you balance being a full-time teacher with
yeah.
researching full-time?
Again, that's really an interesting question. And you know, in one sense, it is difficult. And as you know, I mean, you sort of confronted many of these same issues. Research for historians often entails, you know, personal complications. You have to leave home, you have to sort of live in uncomfortable foreign places. If you have children, it gets complicated. So there are all kinds of obstacles. And I guess against that, I guess I start with two things. One is the sense this is really the essence of what we do, and I know that sounds wrong, and you know, we are teachers, but I think what we bring to our teaching is a kind of serious engagement with problems in a way nobody else is doing in American society. So I guess my sense is, you know, you have to start by sort of reminding yourself this stuff matters, and that what we do isn't being done by anyone else. You know, you have think tanks, you have pharmaceuticals companies doing research. You know, lots of people are doing research, but they're not doing our kind of autonomous free research. They don't have our protections. You know, we have tenure that tells the world we get to say difficult, unpopular things, take our time in saying them. So So number one is the sense that just this matters. Number two is the feeling that, that again, we get to shape our research as we think important. And I guess that has always been a thread in my life, is sort of, this is what I want to work on. And that allows you, there have been times in my life when I couldn't travel very easily, the small kids part, so on. At that point, you simply have to turn to other kinds of research and think about how you adapt your problems to your own personal situation. Yeah, it's not easy in some ways. In my own case, I've been extremely fortunate in various institutional arrangements. Where I first taught at the University of California, they had wonderful research support. So I had the first 15 years of my academic life were spent, very supportive kind of environment. Buffalo, sadly, is less supportive, and that's one of the harsh realities of education today. Universities are being tougher about research support. So, you have to fight to do it, but the fight starts with the sense that this matters.
What are you currently working on?
I have 3 sort of diffuse projects. You mentioned my list of publications. The most recent was a book I'd been working on for a long time. It came out in 2015. And since then, I've been sort of defining a series of avenues. One is to continue my work on historical writing. So I'm interested in how historians plug into the wider culture. 2 is an extremely vague project that I want to pursue on personality and identity. And you were around when I gave the first step in that project of thinking about identity in the early modern world. And so I want to work on that. And the most developed is a continuation of my research on nobility. And so I have an article coming out on the nobles in the French Revolution, what political change had to do with the ruling class situation of France in 1789. And I think that's going to become a book on nobles and the modern world. So there's lots going on.
Finally, what advice do you have for anyone wanting to pursue a career in history,
Yeah.
be they an undergraduate student
Right.
or someone at the graduate level?
Yeah. One is obviously have your eyes open, because it's a tough world. The academic world has been shrinking. My whole career, it has more or less steadily been shrinking. There was good news in the 1980s, and there have been plateaus, but now it's become extremely difficult. That means not to do it if you don't really like it, first of all, because it is a demanding sort of way of working. And then eyes open also implies thinking about, well, what fields are going to allow me both to succeed in the profession and lead a kind of life I want to lead. Dealing in, say, European history may require you to think about, well, I want to work on this, but this other field is closer to where the jobs are, basically, brutally. So it requires a certain kind of alertness and I want to say caution, but not quite caution, but just sort of really thinking about how what you want to do fits with what the world wants you to do, and sort of trying to bring those as close as possible. May not be ultra close, but as well as you can. And the other thing is, of course, history is really an important subject. And, it's systematically downgraded in the world today. So, on the one hand, be cautious, be nervous, because it's a tough world. On the other hand, go into it, with that sense of mission that we need this, and we should be pushing it.
Thank you very much for joining
My
us.
pleasure, my pleasure.
And thank you very much for joining us for our final Facebook event of the semester. We'll see you back in the spring.